Top of the morning, Washington Commanders Nation. It's July 16th, and we get another wrinkle to the Brandon Aiyuk San Francisco 49ers saga as Brandon Aiyuk has officially requested a trade from the San Francisco 49ers. It is officially on wax. Despite all the discussions and attempts that San Francisco has made this offseason, per Mike Garafolo, the two sides have failed to hammer out a contract, and Aiyuk is now making his move, shooting his shot, and requested a trade. And we already know who the number one team on his trade destinations is. It is Washington. Does that mean a trade is going to happen? No. Is it likely to happen? No. But I'm just telling you the news. I just know Brandon Aiyuk turned on Receiver on Netflix, and in a way, that shit made his blood boil. Look at Debo and George Kittle getting featured, being beloved, and being the topic of all these conversations when I had a better season than both of them Bamas. Debo out here less than 1,000 yards. George Kittle had a really good season of 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. Brandon Aiyuk had almost 80 catches, just under 1,400 yards and 7 touchdowns. You saw that nigga's face one time during Receiver. No words. They featured Debo and George Kittle because those are the popular faces everybody knows on the San Francisco 49ers. You know what Debo put up last year? Debo put up, 800 yards? Put up 800 yards. Debo is the face everybody knows. Debo had 892 yards, 7 touchdowns. George Kittle, 65 catches, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. Aiyuk out here leading the team in receptions, yards, and receiving touchdowns. Debo ain't sniffed 1,000 yards in 3 seasons, but they're on the front of all propaganda for the 49ers, and Brandon Aiyuk got to sit back and watch Receiver oh, hell no. I think sometimes quiet receivers are punished for their silence. I think Terry McLaurin suffers from this stigma, and I think Brandon Aiyuk is one of those guys as well. Obviously, Terry suffers from not really having a quarterback in his 6 years in the career so far, but as a receiver, you are benefited more when you open your mouth. And I think Brandon Aiyuk is tired of being quiet. He is making his presence felt, and he is trying to control the narrative of his situation. And while some people think that's selfish, I do not. I am all about the players taking their career into their hand. I'm all about you controlling your destiny. And as a receiver, you gotta bitch at the referees sometime. You gotta throw a temper tantrum. You gotta jump up and down a little bit. You gotta go to the press conference and make your presence felt, because as a wide receiver, you are benefited from opening your mouth. You gotta have a pinch of selfishness and diva in you. I'm sorry, in 2024, that's just how it goes. You get calls that way. You get targets that way. You get brand deals that way. I know it's a team game, but my receivers, the best kind of receivers, got a little twang of selfishness in them, because it will be to your detriment if you just shut the fuck up all the time and just accept your fate. Mouthy receivers get rewarded, and Brandon Aiyuk has had enough of being Mr. Quiet Man. He's produced. He was a first-round pick. He's lived up to his draft status and draft position, and he's taken the bull by the horns. I want to be out of San Francisco. I seen JP Finley post about Brandon Aiyuk requesting a trade, and someone said, I think it was JP said, it's to note that Debo also requested a trade before he got his contract done. Well, like my boy Jalen of Bleeding B&G responded to that saying there was a lot more money in San Francisco then. There was a lot more money around back then. Everybody's got paid in San Francisco. Everybody's price is going up. And you just drafted a wide receiver in the first round of the NFL draft, Ricky Pearsall. There's not but so many chefs allowed in said kitchen at one time. If I was the 49ers, I would still try to force this man one more season. Like, nah, we going on one more Super Bowl run and you'll be all right. You'll live until the end of the season. That's how I would handle it from a 49ers standpoint. But from an Aiyuk standpoint, if I want to be in Washington, if I want to be in Pittsburgh, trade me so I can go into training camp with a new contract and somewhere where I'm wanted and somewhere where I feel I belong. And it is the perfect time to strike while the iron's hot. Training camp starts in a little bit over a week. He has a little bit of time to look over the playbook, but you have all summer long to be ready for week 1. Now is the time if you're going to try to force your way out of town. Now is the time to try to get it done. But will the 49ers oblige? Not sure they do. Because like I said, if I was John Lynch in the San Francisco 49ers, nah, nigga, you playing one more season in the Bay. And when the season's over, we'll figure it out from there. But we're going on one more Super Bowl run with you. But if I'm Aiyuk, I'm like, bro, I'm not stepping on the field for what, $12 million guarantee. I was an all-pro last year, an all-pro wide receiver. What do I look like and what do I benefit myself going out risking injury without a long-term deal on the table? I've seen too many guys that come before me get hurt in a contract year. See their production dip in a contract year. I mean, you just added another chef to the kitchen, drafting Ricky Pearsall in the first round. I may not get the targets I get before. I need to benefit and I need to strike while my value is at a certain point. So I understand it from both sides. I understand it from the San Francisco 49ers side, but I definitely understand it from a person and a player side like Brandon Aiyuk. And I'm all for the players maximizing their value and getting what they feel they are owed, especially when they have production to stand on. And Brandon Aiyuk has the most wide receiver production from the San Francisco 49ers. Everybody has gotten paid there. It is his time to get paid. It's time to pay the piper for the San Francisco 49ers. It's pay him or put up time. I think they have to really start marketing and start taking calls on Brandon Aiyuk. Washington and San Francisco were already starting the discussions around draft time. Is it time to reconvene those calls? Or does Adam Peters feel like, oh, we'll just wait because we'll get him in the offseason for a contract without having to give up any draft capital because you're not going to fleece us. If you saw how Adam Peters and company were wheeling and dealing during the 2024 NFL draft, it's clear no one's going to just walk in and fleece the boys. That's not happening anymore. We are not in the Vinny Serrato, Bruce Allen days of Washington football anymore. Howie Roseman tried it for Philadelphia. Adam Peters hung up and laughed at him and told the crew, yeah, he said, we got to give him this and this. I said, nah, call me back when you're ready to talk for real. And Howie called right back and we got that deal done. That's how business works. That's how having a real general manager feels. And we have that in the building now. But let me know your thoughts on this situation. I'm trying to figure out exactly what I would put up for Brandon Aiyuk. I would imagine a second and a mid to late round pick the following year, like a second in 2025 and maybe like a future fifth or conditional fifth in 2026. That probably gets it done. Because, I mean, they're not going to get like crazy trade compensation for this guy. They're going to get good trade compensation, like a second next year and maybe like a fifth or sixth or a fourth, fifth conditional in 2026. That'll get it done. I've seen star receivers get traded for less. Some people don't even see Brandon Aiyuk as a star. And it's because he's too goddamn quiet. He just goes about his job and produces and doesn't tell anybody about it. And what that does is when it's contract time, they try to fleece you. They try to feel like they have the upper hand. Oh, we're just going to offer this guy a contract and he's just going to take it because, you know, he just goes out and does his job. Stand your ground and speak for what you believe. And if you have production, hold that shit to the fire and at the negotiation table. I ain't mad at you at all, Brandon Aiyuk. Those of you who think he's a diva and all this shit. No, this man has done nothing but shut the fuck up and play football for the first few years of his career. And he has the production to stand on. Y'all not going to Y'all not going to make me hate Brandon Aiyuk because he's taking his career into his own hands. Officially request a trade from the San Francisco 49ers. Is it time to strike while the iron's hot? Will Washington be first in line, or will they sit back and let the San Francisco 49ers come to them? Either way, I think our name will be in the discussion for the guy, because what better time to add a guy of his caliber to your roster than right before training camp? The rookies report for camp this Thursday, the veterans next week, and training camp begins on July 20. Training camp begins for the team on July 24th in 8 days, 1 day over a week. We're getting closer. Would be lovely to have Brandon Aiyuk in the mix, but who knows? I'm not sure that's a reality for right now. It may be more in the cards around the trade deadline or in the offseason of 2025, but there's an opportunity here. Will we seize it? Will we at least put another substantial offer on the table for the guy? Or will we just sit back and see if the 49ers come a knocking for us? Because we know the guy wants to be a Washington Commander. He wants to play with his best friend. He wants to play with his former college teammate and Jaden Daniels. Let's see how the saga continues for Brandon Aiyuk and if Washington gets involved. Until next time, hail to the Washington Commanders. Fingers crossed. Football gods, I see what you do for others. It's our turn now. Deuces.